Having a look and maybe thinking discretion might be the better part of valor. He said no, he wants to try it out. I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of people that ride motorcycles, tens of thousands of them all through North America. But there's only about 1% or a fraction thereof who can do what these gentlemen do, which is freestyle motocross. As I mentioned, they have this long run-up to this 8-foot-tall ramp built out of metal with expanded metal to grab the knobby tires of the dirt bike. And they've got to do this literally by feel. You may notice on those motorcycles, there is no gauges. They're doing that all by just the feel of the bike as they come to that ramp. They got to have exactly the right speed to be able to come up over the top of that ramp and end up across a 75-foot gap to that custom-built 16-foot tall landing ramp on the far end here. They're looking for this sweet spot just past the flat part, sometimes called the safety. Who knows why that would be the case. And on the transition of that deck is where they want to land, called the sweet spot. And if they do that, you won't hear the bang or thump of the motorcycle. It truly is the sweet spot. And at that point, it's 75 feet from here to there. Well, and by the way, in between here, they go about 30 feet straight up in that wind, and maybe, just maybe, pull out some of the tricks for you that freestyle motocross is so famous for. So ladies and gentlemen, I have done my very best to dissuade these gentlemen from performing freestyle motocross today in the wind, but they are determined to do this for you. Can you give them a little love here right now? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I get to introduce these guys to you, and kind of a cool story when you get to meet some of the personality behind it. The motorcycles are essentially identical, but the riders are significantly different. This young man right here grew up being a free rider and happens to ride a snowmobile once in a while, even tries to do a little freestyle on that. But these days, he's freestyling on a motorcycle and spent 3 years in training to do that. He was inspired by watching things on television, but he truly was inspired by this guy because he practices just down the road from his house and somehow, some way convinced him that he should jump a motorcycle 30 feet into the air. Brought to you by the Malone Land Tour. Will you please welcome this 24-year-old star, my friend, Mr. L.P. Chabot. I'll leave you alone for a minute. You're an inspiration. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to come over to this guy right over here. And I'm glad to see that Tebow Importations gave him a new jersey because he torn this one up here. I think it comes with the territory, doesn't it? Crashing once in a while. 7 years he's been out here as a freestyle motocrosser, 10 years on a motorcycle. Learned how to ride. I said, how'd you learn how to ride? He said, free ride. And I said, where? He said, in the woods. So nothing like avoiding the trees to learn how to do this sport. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, he is brought to you by Malone Land Tour, Baie-Comeau Motorsports, Yamaha Canada, Motovan, Tebow Importations, and of course, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, and a number of broken bones and medical insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, the man we call Mr. Ouellette, Mike Ouellette. I was going to say marvelous Mike, but that might be putting too much pressure on you. And then there's this guy. Talk about putting pressure on him. How about this? Then there was one rider remaining. One rider to be... A lot of pressure for that guy, don't you think? 14 years he's been out here doing freestyle motocross, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, he's been riding a motorcycle for an awful long time. And at 35 years old, just shy of 36 years old, well, I can only hope that when I get to be 35, I'm half the athlete that he is. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, he's got the best name in the business, and I'm about to say that for you right now. Brought to you by the Malone Land Tour, Western Sports, XL Suspension, and Yamaha Canada. This is Steel Cutter. Ooh. Now these guys are going to come out here and try to jump this, and I'm just happy if they make it across the gap. You know what I mean? Did we get our medical staff down there? I just want to check. I'm not cursing here, just making sure. Ladies and gentlemen, they are about to take their lives in their hands. I cannot think of a better thing to say to y'all than this. Do not try this at home, all right? It takes years and years of training and a bit of crazy to be able to do what they're going to do, but I'm going to tell you how it all began, how the sport of freestyle motocross came to be. And it did not start on motorcycles. No siree, if you go to the far end of the fair, And you have a look at my friends from the Crazy Crew, the BMX riders. They were the inspiration for this sport. It's kind of complicated. You see, motocross, or motorcycle racing, had been around since the turn of the century. The first motorcycle was created in 1885, and they began to do what are called fair scrambles back in the day, where they took motorcycles and took them out for see how tough they were, and they tried them outside. Eventually, somebody said, "Hey, if we're out here running around on a motorcycle, we might as well see if one is faster than the other." So they created motocross racing, and that had been around. Of course, if you're as old as I am, you'll remember a movie On Any Sunday with Steve McQueen in it. And Steve McQueen and that movie kind of popularized motorcycle racing. Now, at that time, they had travel and a suspension of about 4 inches. It was a little different deal. But in the early 1970s, late 1960s, bicycle riders decided to try and emulate what they were seeing with motorcycles. And that, of course, became BMX racing, bicycle motocross. And those kids went out and raced similar courses that you would see with motorcycles right now. Let's think it twice now about coming up over top of that ramp. He's having a look at it here. Getting the speed up. 30 feet straight up in the air on that 250-pound motorcycle. And, well, as you can imagine, that was part of motocross racing right there. They had those jumps, not quite that high, but that idea. Well, you see, as kids on bicycles are wont to do, they will say those magic words, "Hey, watch this." Or, "You know what? I can do this." And of course, they started to try and jump a little bit higher on those bicycles, and they started to do that during the races. Mike a little bit short on that one as he came down on top of the deck there, the wind blowing him around here a little bit. Cutter now coming to have a look at it. There's Oulette, 26 years old. Cutter sails over there, finds that sweet spot on the far side. You saw Cutter using his body to push that motorcycle forward and down as compensating for the wind there. A powerful rider, a racer in motocross, as he gives a little head shrug right there. LP looks like he's got a problem with the bike. He's bringing that one back over here. Oulette goes up high, takes the hands off, as it does not look like Chabot is going to be able to go here. He's got a problem with the bike. He's going to be working on that one. Either that or he's just going back there to change his pants. That might be what he's thinking about doing. Anyway, when we come back to the story here, of course, as you can see with these kind of things that these guys are doing in the air, the kids on bicycles decided, hey, I can add a little something to that. And they would take their legs off, take their hands off, and the folks in the racing community said, that is not racing. That does not belong here. So these kids said, well, hey, if we're going to get alienated by the racing community, we're going to go off and do our own thing. So in Southern California, they found places like empty culverts and swimming pools, and they started to do things like that. They took a trick from motocross, which is what that was, called the whip by Steel Cutter, and they started to do that in these empty culverts on bicycles. And as kids are wont to do, they would say, hey, I can go bigger. So they did that. They started to add tricks like that one. Kicking it out to the side, super knack, getting the legs out in the in the air position, twisting those legs out like this. And of course, kids thought, wow, that is awesome. And not everybody could do it, of course, so some kids ended up just watching, you see. Cutter gives you the stripper right there, hooking that foot through on a variation of the bar hop. So, of course, some of the kids started to watch, and they told other kids, and they told other kids. And, well, some of those kids happen to ride motorcycles. Very cool trick right there, called a stale fish. 1 foot to the front, 1 foot to the side, and then a saran wrap out as he brought his leg back over the top. Old school trick right there from Oulette. Complicated on the front side of that. Looks like Chabot's trying to tweak things on the engine here as Cutter goes up and gives you a heel clicker. Well, these kids who rode motorcycles said, I wonder if you could do that on a bicycle. I just wonder if you could do that on a motorcycle. And of course, they didn't have things like foam pits or mechanical ramps like this, so they went to the dunes of Southern California. And they began to try that out here. Cutter's saying he's got thumbs up. I think you're crazy, man. Are you sure this is a safe idea? What am I saying, a safe idea to a guy who jumps a motorcycle up into the air like that? He's got his thumb up like that. He says he's feeling pretty good about it all here. Chabot's still working on the bike over here. Unfortunate for him, nothing like mechanical difficulties, but it leaves us with two. And Ouellette having a look at that wind as the dust blows across in front of him here. So the kids who rode those bikes, those motorcycles in the dunes of California began to emulate what they saw for bike riders. I told Mike specifically not to do that because he ended up on the wing the last time, blew himself almost right off the ramp. Did I not tell you not to do that? Up there, high there, as Cutter works across on top of the bike. Anyway, these kids began to do this in the dunes, and the sand is not all that soft, as you can imagine, but they did eventually create a brand new sport, and that sport is what they're showing you here, freestyle motocross. Now, ladies and gentlemen, things have changed since those days. The dunes became piles of dirt, and eventually to the mechanical ramps like you see out here. Super knack out to the side, 9 o'clock knack is what that's called. Knack bringing the legs across the backside of the bike, both feet out into that 9 o'clock knack right there. They built these mechanical ramps like you see here. And the very first Superman seat grab from Steel Cutter, one hand to the seat, one hand on the handlebars, and his legs out very straight there. Those boots always make him look just like the Man of Steel. Kind of works with Steel Cutter, don't you figure? Man of Steel, Steel Cutter. Yeah, exactly. Ouellette up there, double grab to the backside into a scorpion. Oh, I didn't think he was getting his legs back down there. Scorpion style double grab heart attack from Mike Ouellette. You know, I think Rob said it best. My friend Rob was sitting down there in the far end, one of the #1 fans. He said, if you take off these sunglasses, my eyes are like the size of saucers out here. Cutter whipping it out to the side there. As you can see, the wind carry that bike here. The first organized freestyle motocross event, 1995 in Las Vegas, and the very first Canadian Championships, which I had the honor of announcing, was way back in the year 2000. When a trick called the Cordova won that. Now, of course, these guys making that stuff like they're warm-ups here, unless they're in the wind like they are here right now. Cutter backside, got that Indy twist on that heart attack. One hand on the handlebars, one hand on the seat, and the legs in the Indy twist, which throws the trajectory of the motorcycle off, maybe even more than the wind is doing it there. Look back, heart attack. As you saw him duck that head back, he looked back at the ramp, he left. Are you guys enjoying this? It's just me. I'm just such a fan, just a total geek, you know. I'm just like you guys. I just end up with a seat a little closer. You know what I'm saying? But when you're watching this stuff, I hope that you're becoming fans in the same way that I am, because you got to realize that these men are risking their lives for you in the wind here today. Double grab! Oh, beautiful job. Back to the cutouts underneath the seat as he puts his hands to the backside, stretches it out right there. Remember, he had to get himself back on the motorcycle. I just point that out, you know what I mean? See, he's got the cutouts right here. He had to reach all the way back there and get back on in here. Ouellette up high. Oh, man! Executioner! He just let go, one hand on the bike, reaching back there. Huge trick right there from Ouellette. Executioner, are you out of your mind? You only had one hand on the bike that time. Executioner, classic old trick. But boy, oh boy, it's a nerve-wracking trick when you see him do that. Up there high, heart attack, look back as he gets that handstand right there.